Well, we've really enjoyed our children's garden this year, and the kids that have come out on tour have liked to play here too. Well, you can see our flower clock is just at the end of the season. Some of the flowers are already gone, but our floral clocks are still going strong. In fact, they've actually expanded to take up about 3 hours now, which is one of the problems with floral clocks, but they sure are looking nice. Well, another of the great things in our children's garden this year was Miss Blossom. She kind of had a little bit of a lull there when it's hot, but she's got her second wind, and she's fully clothed with all these wonderful petunias, and she looks great. And we actually think she might have kept the raccoons out of the rest of the garden this year. The petunias have been great for all of the hummingbird moths that have come, but one of the things that the kids have liked the most is the sensitive plant over here. And this is really fun for kids to play with because you get a reaction out of a plant. When you touch the leaves, they close up, and kids are just fascinated by that. Well, one of the things that we did learn in our children's garden this year is that we needed a little bit stronger support. Our sunflower house looked great, and the winds came in July and it pretty much blew over because our stakes weren't enough. And the same thing happened here with our gourd teepee, and this just happened last night when the storm came through. We've got all of our gourds here. Our teepee kind of fell over, but it hasn't really affected the crop. We're going to go ahead and we're going to harvest some of our gourds. Now, we're going to leave some of these on here right now, but I do want to show you how you tell when the gourds are ripe and ready to harvest. Basically, what you want to do is look at the stem of the gourd. I've got one right here that's already ready to harvest, and the stem is turned brown and shriveled up on that, and that's how you know when it's ready to go ahead and cut. And it's not necessarily the size of the gourd, but when you see that stem turn brown, that's when it's time to go ahead and harvest it. I've got another one here that's absolutely huge, and you can see that the stem is just now starting to turn a brown color, so it won't be long before we get to harvest these. Well, once you've harvested your bottle gourds, what do you do with them? Well, you're not going to be able to use them right away because you need to dry them and cure them first, and that takes quite a while. In fact, it may take all winter depending on the weather. But basically, what you want to do is go ahead and cut those off with a stem on them, and then you can rig up some way to maybe tie them and hang them up. We're going to hang these up in the barn. And this one actually has already started drying, and you notice all of the lovely, lovely mold and mildew on here. Well, if you just go ahead and scrape that off occasionally, the gourd will continue to go ahead and cure. So this doesn't mean that it's rotten. As long as the gourd stays tough, that's fine. Now, once you've got the gourds dried, basically the way you can tell, if you shake them and you hear the seeds rolling around in the middle, that's how you know that they're dried and ready to go. And also you can tell they have a hollow sound to them. So these gourds are some that our ambassadors harvested last year, and now we're ready to actually do something with them. You can just take a piece of sandpaper and go ahead and smooth that outside off and clean it up. And then you can do things like one of our ambassadors made a planter in here. They drilled some holes in the bottom so that the water could drain out and made an opening here, and then they put some soil and a plant and hung that up in the tree. So you can do that with them. And also, one of the ways that we used gourds was for the head of Miss Blossom. That's actually a giant gourd, and I just smoothed that off with sandpaper and then used some acrylic paint to paint her face on, and then I put a shellac or a gloss over that to make it weatherproof. So you can just use your imagination. If you're going to use them outside, then put a kind of a shellac on them so that they'll be weatherproof. But use your imagination and see what you can do with all those gourds that you get.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.